freaking mama, and you just go, ah.
Good evening, Mr. Babasola. Please, can you please host function to, co-host function to Charlie Agambo? She'll be the moderator this evening, so she'll be able to, you have the host function, so you're the only one that can do that. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Today is 25th of June. Yes. And this is 5 o'clock, time for class. But we are just going to give 5 more minutes for others to join in. The attendance is very poor this evening. So chairpersons, please go and inform your members to join class. It's time for class. So we are just going to give 5 more minutes for the class to start. And also note that the facilitator has been in class like 15 minutes ago. So we have to be very aware of that and also take note of that very careful. So see you guys in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, how are you?
Good evening, sir. You're welcome. We just want to give a few minutes for others to join in. So we'll kick off
Yes.
at 5:05. Okay.
No problem. I just want to make sure you could.
Okay, yes.
For
We can
instance,
hear
see my
you.
screen. Can you see?
Yes, we can.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
So
Please,
you
could
can
you be
see my
kind enough
presentation,
to...
yeah?
Yes, we can, sir. Please, could you be kind enough
Oh.
to make Charlie Agambo a co-host so she could moderate? Charlie, please, can you indicate with a show of hands so she'll be able to locate you easily? Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay, sir, I'm not sure you heard me, sir. Did you hear me? Sorry, you're muted, sir.
Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. No, I was saying that please could you make Charlie a co-host so she'll be able to moderate?
Oh, okay. Charlie,
Yes,
yeah?
thank you. Yes, she's raising her hand.
Okay, got that. Yes, I have done that. I'm an expert now.
Thank you, sir. Charlie, please go ahead. It's 5:05.
Okay. Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to class. So this is 5:05, and we are just going to get started right away. So I'll be giving an intro of the facilitator for today's class, Mr. Babasola Kuti. Babasola Kuti, a proud son of the Yoruba race, hails from Lagos State. He's a career builder, motivator, politician, and an entrepreneur. He studied business information systems with human resource management at the Middlesex University Business School in London, United Kingdom. Sola Kuti runs a company known as Afri Products Limited, which he founded in 1999 and has pioneered many innovative ideas in the last 60 years. The company has business and technology arms. The business area include the fresh juice and smoothie chain, luxury goods, business development, consultancy, telecoms and infrastructures, oil and gas, exports and trading. The technology arm of Afri Products in a joint venture pioneered the smaller domination mobile recharge vouchers in Nigeria and also launched the first ever e-commerce enabled website in Nigeria in 1999. Politically, Shola Kuti is not a newbie outsider. He has served as special assistant to Senator Tokes Ogunbajo in the Nigerian Senate 2003-2007. He saw a leadership vacuum in Lagos State and aspired to be governor of Lagos in 2015 and ran an impressive campaign. He also served as member of the People's Democratic Party Presidential Campaign Council in 2011 and 2015 presidential elections. Shola has represented PDP at various forums, including multiple appearances on TV, defending the ideals of the party and promoting a youthful brand, People's Democratic Party. Shola continues to propagate for more young people to participate in politics and currently mentors young entrepreneurs. So with emojis and welcome, we would like to welcome our facilitator for today, Mr. Shola Kuti. Welcome, sir.
Welcome and good evening to you all. How's everyone today? Let me know. Can you still see my screen? Or do I need to...
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, great. So just to welcome you all once again. This time I'm actually in Abuja, if you can believe that. I normally do this when I'm in the UK. So I talk about the UK government system a lot. Just to let you know, if this is the first time you are on this course, that feel free to ask questions as we go along. I'd like it to be an interactive session rather than just me talking all the way through. So at least if I lose you at any point, you just feel free to stop us and say that you'd like to ask something or to clarify something. Okay, and on that note, I think it's probably best that we run through the slides that I have for you today. So we're going to be talking about the role of opposition in Nigerian politics, and essentially what does opposition do? What is their job as far as the political system in Nigeria is concerned? And I think that pretty much all of us have seen opposition politics in Nigeria. We've seen the APC, give the PDP problems when they were in government. We've also seen the PDP attempt to do that also. So essentially, most countries, especially countries that don't run the parliamentary system like the UK, the opposition is usually like the party that has the largest number of people in the National Assembly. So basically, it's the party that is not in power with the largest numbers. So if, for instance, the APC has, say, 400 members, and the PDP has 250 members, LP has 100 members, the opposition party, the main opposition party will be the one that has the next number. So it will be the PDP if they had 250, for instance. And we don't run a parliamentary system in Nigeria. So if it was, for instance, it was in the UK, you would have, for instance, now you have the Conservatives in power, you have Labour as the opposition party because they have the largest numbers after the winners. And essentially, the job of the opposition is to hold government accountable, but not just to question everything government does, it's also to be able to propose solutions that are not in line with what the government is doing. So say you've done X, Y, but I think you should have done Z. They are wrong or they are not good for the country, and I think you should have done Z. So you tell them, you disagree with them, and then you tell them what your own solution will be. So again, this slide just tells you what I've just said, that the main role of opposition parties is to hold the government in power accountable and make them accountable to the people. So how does opposition do this? It's simple really, because the government always tells you, oh, we have for instance, the Naira change policy, when they were swapping the Naira. And the opposition could have said, for instance, we think this is a bad idea. We suggest that you do this after the elections, or you do it gradually. They could have said what the Supreme Court said. And I'm sure some people did it, but I don't think that the PDP or the other parties came together to actually tell them what they were just like, oh, is this? In fact, I think some of them were happy because they thought, oh, this means that Bola Tinubu will not have money to spend. And obviously, all that didn't work in favor of anybody. People suffered. Tinubu still won the election. So again, these are examples of times when opposition should have done their job, but they didn't necessarily do it at the time because they felt that it suited their own purposes. So what are the factors that promote a good opposition? Number one, free and fair elections. So essentially, you see, it's not just enough to oppose. You can be against something, but what is the reason why you're against it? Is it because you didn't win? And that's why free and fair elections are very important. Because if it's because you didn't win and you feel aggrieved or angry that, oh, I lost out, then your criticisms, your opinions will not necessarily be in the interest of the people. They'll just be, everything they do, you'll be against. Even if they bring a great policy, you will say you don't like it. But if the elections are free and fair, and you know that you did everything you could, but you still lost, I think more people will feel inclined to actually look at what the government of the day is doing and look at the places where they see room for improvement. You also need a good political climate. You need a climate where people are free to speak their minds, where the press is free to express their opinion, where people can actually criticize government without fearing that they will disappear one morning or they'll get arrested and put in detention. You also need a climate where politicians are less hostile, where there's no violence, so people would not be afraid to speak their mind. And then the third thing I think that is critical for a good opposition is a lot of support from the citizens. You can see, and the funny thing is that the Labour Party was not really the main opposition party in the last election, but you can see that they did sufficient damage, and that is because they have support from the citizens. Peter Obi was basically preaching to the converted. All the things that the PDPs and the APCs of this world were not able to do, he was able to actually do those things with absolutely no money. And so you can imagine if today he criticizes government, for instance, you can imagine how many voices of his supporters will also help to analyze his criticisms and bring it even to the fore for free. He doesn't have to pay for it. And then obviously on the back of that, you have factors that prevent good opposition. And those things will include the opposite of what I said. So if you have a hostile climate, including threat to freedom of speech and association, you would have, opposition that is really levered. Like you can see that the PDP kind of was very, people will say, the PDP is not really opposition anymore, or they don't know how to play opposition because they have been in government too long. But it isn't true, is that the climate was so hostile that the first thing the government did was to clamp down on all PDP leaders associated with the last elections. That is to basically pummel them into submission. So now everybody was scared to criticize the same government because they thought, they might remember my case or they will come and arrest me too because I collected 500 naira from somebody, and you could see how that worked out. It became like PDP was a bit soft compared to what the APC did in 2015, 2014, 2015. Also, when you don't have a lack of support from the citizens, again, the PDP suffered from that in the last, before the last elections. Also, when you have poor quality leadership in opposition political parties, so again, the PDP suffered from that. We had a very poor quality of leaders in the PDP, and I can say that anywhere in the NWC,
I can't hear you, sir.
Okay, I think probably his network, he's gone off. So let's just be patient. I'm sure he'll get back soon.
Yeah, can everybody hear me now?
Yes, we can now. Welcome back.
When did you lose me? Can you hear me? When did you lose me? Can you remember when you lost me?
The problems of the PDP.
Say again?
The problems of the PDP. Problems from the People Democratic Party.
Okay, so what slide was I on? Can you see my slides now?
No, sir, we can't see your slide.
Okay, just wait a minute. Let me reconnect because I had to basically log out and log back in. Okay, so can you see it now?
Not yet, sir.
Not yet. Okay, let me do a start broadcast. Wow. It says something about illegal broadcast. Somebody trying to do a legal broadcast. Okay, so you're now sharing the screen. So you should be able to see my screen now.
Yes. Yes, sir.
You can see the slides, yeah?
Yes, sir, we can see.
Okay, so we were here. Did you see did I get to this part before I got cut off?
The NWC.
Yes, so I was talking about, so for instance, I was talking about lack of poor quality leadership and how the NWC was just basically people that packed themselves in essentially to, people just put them there because they were more interested in how they would get the party's ticket rather than how the party will progress. And you can see we don't have a good speaker as our National Publicity Secretary. We didn't have a solid chairman and all that kind of stuff. So technically, who is driving that process to create like good, to look at the government policies and be able to address the inefficiencies of those policies? It depends on who you have doing that for you to get like a good quality leadership to drive that. You basically need good leaders to be able to be a good opposition party. And then poor organization of the opposition. I mean, one of the things in the past that we've done in the PDP was to suggest that, for instance, we had what they call shadow ministers in PDP while we were in opposition to ABC. So essentially, would have if APC as the Minister of Energy, would have a shadow Minister of Energy, and they would then be an expert. Basically, that's the person that will probably most likely put in that position if we were to be in government. So their job will be to look at the policies of government and then criticize them and tell them how the PDP will run it differently if they were in power. That's the way of enticing the people to think about your ideas before the elections and actually see whether they would like to try those ideas by electing you into office. In the UK, for instance, so for instance, when you lose elections in the UK, the beautiful thing is that everybody, before you can become a minister, you have to be a member of parliament. So you have to be technically a House of Rep member. So you have to have gone to your constituency, won an election, then you come into cabinet, and then based on your relationship with the leader of the party or the prime minister or the president, they then give you a ministerial position in the cabinet. Now, what that means is essentially two things. Is that if you don't win an election, you can't be a minister in the UK. But the beautiful thing is also that in the opposition party now also has the opportunity to also select shadow ministers. So like I said, their job is basically to sit on government policies, look at them and say, you know what, we in the other party would have done things a little bit differently. This is what this is going to cause. And then use that to basically drive the process of getting other people or citizens to vote for you in the next elections. But also to help government become a bit more sensitive to the needs of the people. But in their case, if you're a shadow minister, you actually get paid as much as the actual minister. That's the beautiful thing about it. In our case, we don't have that in our constitution. So essentially, that meant that the PDP was bankrolling these ministers and paying them exactly the same, giving them cars, allowances, houses in Abuja, the same as government has done. And the funny thing, if they only have 30 or 40 odd people, instead of all the money they waste on jamborees, I would have thought that would be a good idea if we really want to help the citizens and we want to help the country develop, to set that process and use funds, that is generated by the party to do things, to pay those kind of people, so that when we are in opposition, we're actually doing something. People are working, and people are also struggling to be appointed as shadow minister as well, so that they can show what they can do, and it just gives us to get our best hands, because technically, if people can't do the job, they will not want to be selected for that. So an example of poor opposition, I always use this example, but I just gave you a better one as I was coming along, how PDP was very poor in terms of the Naira policy, in terms of some of the government policies, CBN policies, for instance. And APC was also poor in 2014 with the fuel subsidy example, because look, long and short, let me say with the long agonizing story, because I know most of you know about the riots, protests, or whatever in Ojota across the country, that they should not remove subsidy. Because at the time they claimed that there was no subsidy and that PDP was just using to defraud Nigerians. And what that might be true, that subsidy was a fraud in itself. Subsidy wasn't a fraud, it was the people that were benefiting from it, the oil marketers that were defrauding the government, maybe with the complicity of government officials, that created that ballooning effect on what subsidy was. And they were right to say that it was fraudulent, but they were wrong to say that it shouldn't be removed. Because as you have seen today, they have actually removed subsidy, without any apologies. So that suggests that the idea to remove it was a very good idea. So that was a very bad opposition move tactically, because they have now come into government and seen that Jonathan and Okonjo-Iweala were right. It wasn't sustainable, and it should have been removed a long time ago. Okay, so what is the role of the citizen in all of this opposition politics? I always say to people across the board that, you see, the problem with government is that when your party is in power, most people think that it's a time to keep quiet. And they say, let me know, it's my own party that's in power. So they defend everything their party does. That's one of the reasons why I always have, maximum respect for High Chief Tokwesi, may God rest his soul. Because he taught me one thing. He taught me that, that sometimes you have to go against your party in order to get them to do better. And many times he went against the PDP. People didn't understand it. They were like, he's a traitor. Many times he went against the South and said, no, the North must have the presidency. Since Adu had died, they called him all sorts of names. But he stood his ground. And today, he's somehow vindicated, because, like when presidents are in power, people bow at their whims and caprice. They're like gods in Nigeria. And that's the difference between the Nigerian system and all other systems across the world. In the UK, your prime minister drives in a 2-car convoy with 2 bikes in front of him, maybe maximum 3 cars if he's lucky. He can't have 20 people following him, because some person will just look at those 20 cars and say, this is a waste of taxpayers' money. And that prime minister might lose his job just for that, something so trivial. It's not trivial for them, but for us, it's like nothing. We see 100-car convoys all the time. So I think that the citizens must become a bit more circumspect, in a way that they don't ever take sides with any government that's in power. Yes, some of us are partisan, but we must become bold enough to realize that, or even when your party is in power, some of their policies also affect you. They affect your family members. And we need to stop endorsing and applauding mediocrity. It's just that simple. When somebody builds a 2-kilometer road, and before he does groundbreaking, brings Atilogu dancers and some people to come and sing, then we all go there and say, this governor is working, he's doing well, and then he spends 500 million on that jamboree when the road is only going to cost 1 billion. Perhaps, we should be asking that, could you have put the 500 million to better use than renting tents and bringing dancers and all that kind of stuff? We need to, when people, elected officials do very well, So they do, we see them doing excellently well. We say, thank you, Mr. Governor. Thank you, Mr. President. This is such a fantastic, project. It's good. It will really help the group. However, you've only done 7 kilometers and there's like another stretch for like another 15 or 20 kilometers, sir. Do you think that it will be, you'll be able to do that one too? So basically, we need to be greedy, and when we get something, we don't just applaud it. We ask for more, as is our right. They're not doing us a favor. Always remember that. So in conclusion, opposition is as important, if not more, even more important than government, because think about it. If government fails and opposition fails to call government to action or force government to action, then we're in big trouble. You can see how close the last election was. I can bet you that no government, what is sought, will sit back. Because I will tell you, I'm a member of the PDP, and I always love to share my experience with people when I talk about these things. That we have been shouting. In fact, I wrote an article in 2013 or 2014, PDP reform or die. And I kept on all the things that Peter Obi practically did during his elections, are things that we be suggesting. We keep on telling our leaders that, look, 4 years, elections, politics is not just 6 months to elections when you win the primaries and that. What are you people doing for the rest of the 3 years? You're not sitting at home watching TV. Why don't you go and look at these IDP camps? Why don't you go on a tour across the country? Why don't you do surprise visits to all sorts of institutions just to see what is going on there, to have a feel of how the people are feeling, so that when it's time to campaign, when you are talking to the ordinary citizen on the street, it will be as if you are living his life, because he will think, this man even knows the price of bread, because you spent your time 4 years gathering information, not intentionally, but just by doing something with your time that is useful, and that endears people to you, and think about it. Peter Obi went to IDP camp, gave them 4 million naira. The people said he's stingy. Atiku went to the same ID camp, gave them 50 million naira. They still voted for Peter Obi because he showed the empathy very quickly. And it is things like this that are very important. That as opposition parties, if you want to dislodge the main party in power, you've got to be a bit more deliberate with your attempts. It's not a face-saving exercise or some sort of publicity stunt. It's deliberately trying to see where people are hurt and trying to assuage those feelings. And also one of the things that's key is that the main opposition party may not be the best. But if you see, this is another mistake we learned from this election. If you see that, well, you know what, at the end of the day, these are the ones that are most likely to dislodge the party that you don't want at all, then you should support them just for that time being. Because the one that's going to come third will now be stronger for the next election. So you bait them, say, okay, you know what, we like you, but you know what, this is the person that can win. Let us not go and make a mistake and elect the person we don't even want at all. And we must be deliberate about what we do in politics, either as citizens or as politicians. We must ensure that we have, they have required support from all of us. And don't know opposition party, because now you can see LP is working together with PDP. We're no longer fighting each other. We're now looking at the National Assembly and seeing how we can work together to achieve results. A lot of politicians that have selfish intention. Everybody thinks about, I want to be a member of a committee. I want to be chairman of this committee so I can make money. Because again, our politics is expensive. People are thinking about how they're going to pay for the next election. So as far as I'm concerned, we support whoever it is that we think can dislodge the people that we don't even want at all. And then when they get into power, we do the same thing to them, put them on their toes until we get a country that works. I think that with what has happened in the last election, I think Nigeria will work better, because now everybody is looking over their shoulder at that man behind them that they thought was going to get 2 million votes, and he got 7 million, or even maybe 9 or 10 million, who knows? And they're looking at the other party that thought they were going to win, and they came second, and they're looking at the one who won, but actually who didn't win because they were manipulating votes. So it's thrown up a fantastic opportunity for the opposition parties to really put, because I've said it, even with the PDP, that the reason why the PDP was so lackadaisical was because they felt that they didn't have anybody to challenge them, that They already knew how they won the elections. They knew they used money. They were in government. They had money, access to government funds. They're just going to buy their way through this thing. And they once boasted they will be in power for 60 years, And I think the man must have said 16, but nobody heard him because after 16 years, they were removed from power. So I think that, we all have a role to play to encourage opposition parties because they are actually a political power because they are elected, most of them are elected as well. We all have a role to play to encourage them to challenge government more. We should not further divide the opposition parties along party lines at the moment because we only have one enemy, and that enemy is the party in government. So thank you all for listening. I hope that, and I apologize for that interruption. I hope that you've enjoyed the session, and I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Wow, that was very quick and insightful. I believe we have questions at this junction because this class is, well, the role of opposition in government is something we are to look into presently after the election. So
Yeah.
I believe we have questions to this. Yes. Okay, Moses, I've asked you to unmute.
Okay, good evening. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the very short and insightful presentation. I think my question
Did we lose him?
is this. You mentioned the role of...
Moses, you're on mute. Unmute yourself, please.
Sorry, are you with me?
Go on, I can hear you. You're muted again.
Okay. Position to help keep the current government on their feet. But I'm also looking at where do we now put the media? Because I feel the media helps to drive and promote some of these oppositions, and then it will also help keep the citizens informed. So where do we now put the role of the media in this whole thing? And how do we ensure that the media also balances? Because you have a situation whereby you have a particular media outfit that is always on the side of the opposition, and then the sitting government might just feel, oh, these guys are against us, and they totally avoid that media outfit. How does the media outfit balance opposition and then also trying to maintain their business as a media outfit?
Well, thank you for that. Your remarks, your question. I think it makes sense to ask these questions. Again, I always talk about politics is expensive, and the media does not necessarily work for free in a country like ours. Because think about it, how do the media generate funds? So, because again, that structure is so important that people are struggling for resources, they're struggling to survive. Even the media houses are struggling to stay afloat. It's likely that politicians will once again hijack those media. Because I once did a not-for-profit thing when there were floods in 2013 or 14, I can't remember precisely now, 2012. And you won't believe that we invited media people to come and cover the story, and they said we had to pay them. This was not for profit. We're just sensitizing the government that, look, there are floods everywhere, and we were raising funds and sending relief materials across the country. But they wanted us to pay them because they were like, we need to pay them for transport, whatever. I think it was 2,000 each at the time. But even then, I just found it so ridiculous. So again, the role of the media can only be sustained if the media is allowed to be independent. And also, one other thing is that I guess everybody has to pay for media these days. So if your opposition party is serious about taking power from those in government, then they must also be ready to invest some sort of money into the media to make sure that they are pushing out information through various media channels. I hope that explains it. But what I'm saying essentially in summary is don't expect the media to do anything for you for free. It was unfortunate, but that's the truth.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Anybody else?
Okay, I believe your question was answered. So, okay, Yemi, I've asked you to unmute.
Good evening. Thank you for your wonderful delivery, and good evening to everybody in the house too.
Good evening, Opeyemi. Thank you.
Yeah, my question, it's a bit hypothetical. I was wondering, in a situation where the sitting party, the ruling party, has been largely wonderful, in quotes, does an opposition party always have to criticize? I mean, does an opposition party always have
that's a
to
fantastic
find
question.
fault?
Then
I picked something while you were talking too. You mentioned something along the lines of common enemies. Do we have to see the ruling party as enemies?
Okay, so let me take the first question. I hope you're done, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there isn't any perfect government in the world. I mean, you can look around you everywhere in the US. You can look at the UK, United Kingdom, where things work. They have uninterrupted power supply. The fact is this, that nobody has the monopoly of good ideas. And while you may not necessarily criticize, you might say, for instance, the policy that they've done is a good policy. However, you would have done X, Y, and Z. Exactly. That's what I was saying, that even when the government is performing, they built a road, ask for 20 kilometers. Say that road is not finished though, because there's still a 20 kilometer stretch. Same idea, that even when the government is doing well and doing their best, or you might say, you build this road for 100 kilometers, it's a fantastic road and everything, but you built the road at an astronomical cost. So we would have built that same road for less than that, and this is how we can prove it to you, because in our own state that we have a governor, we're building the same standard of road for X. Do you know what I'm saying? So your idea basically is to say we're better than you. So and that's why I said that it would help us to get, a better government if we continue to put each other on our toes. And yes, when you say the word enemies, I meant enemies in quotes. Because don't forget also that the leaders also haven't done very well for us across board. I think that, so a lot of our leaders are so insensitive. It's not just, for me, it's not just about corruption, it's about the level of wickedness. There's this story I always tell about the guy in NNPC, who they found. I don't know if you guys heard this story a few years ago. I think after the Jonathan government, it was MD of an NPC or some GMD or some person, that they found a house stashed with dollars and naira and pounds in Kaduna, somewhere in Kaduna. That house had a generator, and they always starting generator and pushing on the ACs, and they were wondering why. And the person that grasped the guy went to the man to ask for school fees for his child. I said it wasn't, even if his child was going to Harvard, that man could have paid, but I'm sure it was like 20K or something, or 50K. But the man told him he doesn't have any money. But I know that you have a house full of money somewhere. So he went to report to the authorities. And that's what I'm saying, the level of, we not say that person is your enemy. The level of wickedness that makes it a bit more, makes it a bit more intentional for me to use that word. Because they aren't treating citizens like they were friends. They're treating us as if they disdain us. They're not even treating their family members as they were friends. That's why I use the word enemy in quotes. So say we have a common enemy. So with the opposition and the citizens, like right now, the people that are responsible for all our problems, if we have any problems, is the government in power. So opposition doesn't want them in power, and which we shouldn't want them in power. Even when they are doing great, we should be asking them for more. I hope that explains.
Yes, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Amadine, I've asked you to unmute. You can go ahead with your questions.
I don't think he's muted. Unmuted.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, we can hear you. Okay.
Okay. So thank you so much for the lecture. So I wanted to narrate something I witnessed during this campaign season. And it's from my own vantage point. If you ask others, they disagree or have counter experiences. But speaking about opposition, is it necessary for opposition to play opposition to another opposition? Because during this campaign season, I got the feeling that the opposition parties, lost focus. At some point, I saw them attacking each other, going after each other, and the ruling party was just sitting, laughing, smiling, and looking at them like, let them keep fighting. So I'm really wondering, and to be honest, it might seem maybe I'm a bit unfair, but in this situation, I have two parties in mind, specifically the PDP and the Labour Party. And I won't lie, I was a bit more harder on the PDP because I saw these persons playing opposition for the last 7+ years. I know people might say they were not doing it well enough, but I believe the PDP, just from my opinion, they've been the most reserved or the most balanced in their opposition. They don't, go extreme and all that, but they've been doing it, and I watched them. So it was a bit shocking that months to election, the very same people I've seen holding the APC to account for so long, they just lost the plot, and then suddenly Peter Obi was the devil that needs to die. And I really didn't get that. And then the explanation or the response I always got when I asked was that they are all different parties, that no one should hold, try to guilt trip the PDP into not talking about other parties, that they have the right to talk about every party. But I just kept wondering, shouldn't APC be the focus? Well, that's one question. Then the second one is type of opposition. For some reason, like I said, people don't really agree that PDP even played opposition. And I think all largely causes this is because I think maybe the kind of opposition that resonates better with Nigerians is this very dirty, aggressive, vicious kind of.
Exactly.
Is there another way to go about this where Nigerians can actually see that opposition is doing well without them having to resort to some nasty bit of opposition doing, so to speak?
Yeah. You make some really fantastic points, Amadine. Thank you so much for those. Okay, yes, and I agree with you. There's a time when opposition must become coalition. When the party is seeking to upstage a party from power must look at the equation and say, guy, you and I are just helping this guy. I think one of the things I said, in one of the elections, that any votes that are split between PDP and LP are only going to help Tinubu win, and that there were only two people likely to win that election. But the two people cannot do it independent of, you understand, of each other. I think you are right that this whole sometimes you also must know that some of these parties actually work in the interest of the person that we claim we don't want. They'll go and meet them and say, guy, come. If you go into this race, you're going to weaken this guy that is likely to win. So you jump in and continue going. Don't worry, I'll finance you. So that this guy, you get some of these guys' votes and make him weaker, while I'm just running away with my own votes. So a lot of stuff happens in politics, a lot of betrayal, backstabbing, horse trading, they call it, happens in politics that we're not aware of. Sometimes, for instance, I've got like really good friends in the APC, and they say that sometimes they fund these parties by proxy. So they use a friend of yours who is close to you and say, you're running for election, and you know that you don't want to spend your own money because you want to waste it, or you don't even have the resources. They would then say, don't worry, me and a few guys came together. We are giving you 2 billion. 2 billion that you've not seen in your life before. You see money. That will strengthen your resolve to go out there and spend money to win. It means that they are trying to weaken somebody else. They know you cannot win, but they are trying to weaken somebody else. And I think that is just important for us to understand that, sometimes we need to be patient in politics. And yes, I agree that PDP doesn't do the dirty. I've said it many times on Facebook, on Twitter, that I've been a member of the PDP, and sometimes I tell them that even I am not this gentleman. My style of politics is like when I look at who I'm dealing with, and I match them with the same equal amount of force that they're matching me with. I'm not going to be, you never see me in the newspaper crying, somebody tried to shoot me or somebody tried to assassinate me. I already know the devils I'm playing with, so I'll make sure that I don't even give them the opportunity to do it. I think that's important that we do play that kind of politics, that level-headed kind of, that's one thing I stayed in the PDP for. I like that they were sort of like gentlemen, and they weren't forceful about, trying to get they didn't lie. All the lies we heard there, somebody drove into CBN and removed $500 million. Somebody has $200 billion stashed in their house. All those kind of things. PDP doesn't really, like to do propaganda. They don't know how to do propaganda. They don't think it's the right way to go. They just want to stand there, and they think they can win elections, and they win it. Not, I won't say free, fair and square, because in this country everybody rigs elections. It's something that we know. If you don't rig, you can't win, because the other person is rigging. So you want to rig to counter their rigging. So it's the electoral system. I think we did get a good upgrade. I think it's a decent upgrade. I don't like the way the elections turned out, but I think that if we keep on going at this rate, you see a better. People will now know that all that propaganda and all that stuff doesn't really work. I think we need to just progress slowly and correct things as we go along. So thank you for the questions. Anybody else?
Okay. Seems we don't have any more questions. Okay, no more questions. Thank you very much, sir, for the class. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. So, can we all unmute and thank the facilitator for today's class?
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you guys. Thank you for listening. I hope you
Engaging.
guys got something from it.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And you can send me questions or anything that you need. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram as @RealShola.
Okay, sorry, I think we lost you, sir. Could you just give us your social media?
I was just saying that you can send me any questions. Get in touch with me at RealShola Kuti. Those are my handles on all social media. At RealShola Kuti. SOLAKUTI. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right, you guys have a good week.
Always a pleasure having you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Have a good evening.
Have a good week. Yeah. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Thank you, everyone, for joining. This will be the end of classes for this weekend. So you just have barely 2 more weeks. So please, I want the attendance to improve. I think a lot of us have been slacking off, but we have just 2 more weeks. So let's give it all the push we can. All right. Good evening, everyone.